Hey everyone! I've been trying to speed up my workflow recently, and in that vein, we're going to be going over using and making actions in Photoshop for this week's fundamentals video. So first off, what are actions and why are they awesome? If you know programming terms, an action is basically a macro, but for Photoshop. And if you've never heard of macros, they're a way to save time when using a program by recording a set of actions you commonly use. Say, applying a certain kind of color grading if you're working on something with a brand guide, or you always have to recreate a photo filter you use. Actions will speed this up by letting you skip having to recreate it all the time. To use actions, we'll need to open up our Actions window first. You can do this by going under the Windows menu up at the top, or by typing Option or Alt and F9. When you first open the window up, there will be a folder icon next to the word Default Actions. Unroll that, and you'll see all the preset actions built right into the program when you first get it. To get an idea of how these work, select a layer in your Layers panel, pick an action, and hit the triangle play button at the bottom of the window. Not all of these will be super useful for every photo, but really I recommend just playing around with them and seeing what happens. Some of these will work by making adjustment layers or smart objects, which you can then change after the action's been applied by double-clicking on the layer, as with any other time. But honestly, most of the built-in default actions are pretty useless in day-to-day work, at least for me. But there are other built-in presets that are far more useful. You can get to those sets of actions by going up on the top right of your window and hitting the hamburger menu. At the bottom of the menu that opens up, you'll have different actions you can use. These include image and text effects, filters, photo actions, and more. And you can also make your own. For my example, I'll be showing how to make an Instagram-styled photo filter, but the steps are the same for whatever you want to make. To make your action, first hit the page icon to create a new action with the window that opens up. This window will let you name things up at the top. The menu under that, the Set, will let you pick a folder of actions you want to put the action in. By default, this will be Default Actions. The next bit of choices is the Function key. This is where you can set a shortcut for your action if you want to use it a lot. You can set that shortcut to use the F1 to F19 keys, the Shift key, and or the Command or Control keys. Lastly, you can choose a color for the action, which will give it a color in the window, which we'll get to in a bit. If you have a lot of actions or are working on a set you plan to export, this lets you keep it organized. Once you've got the settings how you want, hit record and let's get started. I will say that before you go into your recording, you might want to test the effect out first. This will let you make sure it works the way you want and will save time on editing later. For my part, I made a few adjustment layers to mess with the contrast and coloring, created a new layer with a filter, and then changed the layer's blending options so it worked differently with the photo under it. Pretty much anything will be recorded, from applying filters to changing settings in a document to applying transformations. Once you've experimented, you can then hop back in and do all of the steps I went over so far to record the action. Once you've recorded the whole thing, hit the square stop button on the bottom of the window to end the recording. From there, you can just play your action whenever you need it. You can do that with the triangle play button on the bottom, or by using your keyboard shortcut if you've set one. And as a side note, you can also get rid of any action you no longer need or want with the garbage can icon on the other side of the window. If these are built-in actions or sets, it will just hide them since you can open them right back up from the side menu, but you'll actually delete any actions you've made. Going back up to the hamburger menu at the top right, we've got the rest of our options as well. At the very top, we've got a toggle for whether we want to use button mode or not. This will change how the Actions menu looks, making it more like a mobile app, and it will also be where your colors will come into play. With it on, all the actions become a long colored bar with the name of the action. Clicking any of these buttons will automatically play the action, which will make it a bit faster to use, but a bit more of a pain to edit. Under that, we've got a group of actions to do the same as the buttons on the bottom of the window. These let you create an action or group, duplicate a selected action with button mode off, delete actions, and play your actions. The next menu is going to require you to have an action selected, since they're all ways to edit an action. Up top, you can hit start recording and do some things. Whatever you do will be recorded and added to the bottom of your action, meaning they'll come after whatever else you've already done for the action. If you choose to record again, whatever step you have highlighted will be copied immediately after that step, making that new action active, which lets you adjust it so it's different than the previous version. Inserting a menu item will open up a new recording window, and with this window open, you can go into the menus at the top of Photoshop and use something in there, and that menu item will then be added to the action. There's also the option to add stops after that. This is just what it sounds like. Adding one will open a window where you can type up a message. You can also allow continuing or not with the checkbox on the bottom. With one of these in your action, when your action plays through, it'll pause when it reaches the stop. With allow continue enabled, you can then stop the action there or choose to continue. You can also get super detailed and specific with them by adding a little programming and inserting conditionals. Conditionals are a thing you see in programming languages where you set a rule or something to check, and depending on how that check goes, the program will do one thing or something else, though you don't actually need to understand programming to use this. Clicking Insert Conditional will open up the Conditional Action window. You'll have three menus here. The top is the if. This is the condition your action will check for. They'll be based on either the document as a whole or an active layer. Under that is the then menu. If your condition is true, then the action you pick under this menu will play. You can also choose none here, which will make it so nothing will play if the condition is true. And lastly, you have an else. This means that if your condition is true, then the first action will play, or else the other action you pick here will play. I'm pretty sure there's a way to combine these with stops to get really complex actions, but honestly I've never found the ambition to experiment with it that far. Under that, we have the option to add a work path to our action. To use this, first we need to use our pen or shape tools and add a path to the layer. After that, click on this and it'll make it so the path you created will be created on each play of the action. You can use this together with other things with the path, such as putting a stroke and or fill on it before stopping the recording. This will make it so the exact same shape will be created every single time you've played an action. Under that, if you click on Action Options, you'll open up the same window you had when creating your action in the first place. Here you can change the name, set, shortcut, and color. With the playback options, you can change how fast the action will play through. Accelerated will automatically run through all of it quickly. Step by step, on the other hand, will pause between each step of the action, so you can adjust things like, say, changing the path of your pen tool. You can also manually set a number of seconds you want it to pause with that third option. You can also toggle Allow Tool Recording in the hamburger menu, which will track any tools you've used and their settings as part of a recording. Next up, we have our management options. At the top of these, we can clear all actions. This will remove all presets or custom actions in your window, leaving you with a blank window. Likewise, under that, you can click the Reset Actions option, which will reset it back to just showing the default actions. If you've downloaded a set of actions or made your own, you can also use the Load Actions option and import the set into your window, in addition to any others you have in there. Next, if you have a file for your actions, as just mentioned, there's the Replace Actions option. This will remove all actions from your window and will only show the actions in the file you import here. And lastly, you can select an action or group of them and choose to save actions. This will export the actions you've selected as a file, which you can use for the previous two items or send off to other artists or team members. Our last group of options is full of other preset actions you can open and use. Going back to the actual actions window, you can also adjust your actions manually. Just like with layers, your actions have a stack. Everything the action does will come in a sequence, going from the top to the bottom. You can click and drag these steps around to reorder how things are done. And to finish it off, you can also change any of the steps that have settings, such as transforms or filters, by double-clicking on said step and adjusting these settings accordingly. And that was Photoshop Actions. I hope everyone's learned something and had fun doing it. If you have any questions, thoughts, or other feedback, you can let me know with a comment below or with a message to @ET_studios on Twitter. And I'm planning to be back here every Friday, so be sure to subscribe for more awesome content. Have a great day, everyone.